everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Wrist Cheese Radio podcast, your home for horological hot takes, taboo topics, and often unpopular watch opinions. As always, I'm your host, and with me is my buddy Schmidt. Schmidt, what's going on, bud?
Not a whole lot, my friend. Just back from another business trip, recording a pod episode late at night, as per usual these days. But excited to be here with you, my friend. How about yourself? How are things?
You know, I am looking forward to this. For me, is the equivalent of the week before Christmas vacation. We have what's known as aeration, which is basically they're gonna spruce up the place at my job, and we're not gonna be there for 3 days. So 3 days in the summer is like a huge deal. So this is like a, you know, I gotta plan these 3 days out like the last 3 days of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a prime time with the fam, and that's prime time doing things not work related. So, do you have any special plans?
You know, obviously, I had a little overnight booked out in Montauk. Wife got a new job. Obviously, her one training day that she has to be there, same day.
No way.
Yep. So we had to move that because, of course.
Absolutely, right? Because reasons.
Yes, because of reasons. So right now, not too much. I would love to get a round of golfing. I have not golfed in so long. But yeah, definitely looking forward to hanging out with the kiddos and maybe even seeing my family. Novel concept.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You got anything big coming up?
No, man, nothing crazy. This next week I'll be on the road again, so traveling to and from as per usual. That's been trying to get everything last minute done before the new baby comes toward the end of the end of the year. So yeah, just as much travel as I can fit in. Work life's okay and family's good, so you know, the usual.
No complaints.
No complaints.
Good. Okay, let's get on to the usual new releases. I don't know if you saw this one. This one really grabbed me. The purple Tag Heuer Monaco. I know we discussed the Monaco already about how much we like. You know, it's an odd square chronograph, square watch, and then it comes out in this purple with black subdials. And let me tell you, the contrast with the white is actually quite nice. I am very much feeling this watch.
No, I like this watch a lot myself, and we've talked about how we feel about vintage tag, especially some old classic Heuer models. You know, we talked about the Carreras on a couple episodes ago. The Monaco for sure has come across our pod before, but this one is gorgeous, man. It's like I just think Purple Rain every time I look at this watch. You know, it's got that dark purple fume dial gets kind of a dark black color out towards the periphery of the dial. It's really, really stunning. And the Monaco is such an iconic watch. You know, the world's first square, water resistant, automatic chronograph in the world. Very cool piece. So I'm sad that in typical tag fashion, as is the case these days, they're doing it in a small limited edition production.
Mm-hmm.
So the average rest of us that love this watch would love to add it to our collection are just out of luck. So there you go. But another $10,000 or so tag that's going to be a great hit for them, and only 500 people are going to get it. So there you go.
What I'm hoping
worldwide.
What world allocation? Yeah. What I'm hoping is that they are teasing us with these. They're dropping all these cool limiteds, and then maybe they'll give us just like your plain old silver, black, blue, white, you know, but like in nice packages, not the jumbo versions or anything. I'm hoping because, you know, even the other day I listened to Mike Stock that was on with our buddy Matt McD over at Spirit of Time, and they had a pretty long discussion about 90s Tag Heuer and how they were like almost like what Omega to Rolex is today. They were like the 1A to Rolex back then, as far as popularity is concerned.
Yeah. I mean, they were immensely popular. For sure.
And there's a ton of kind of really cool niche timepieces in that era that go forgotten and are still very good value propositions. And I'm hoping that maybe Tag will start to evolve into that direction again, where they're trying to become that force, and maybe they're starting with these limiteds and they'll work their way forward. I don't know if I believe that, but fingers are crossed. I really want them to do that. I mean, we've spoken about this at length so many times. I really would like to see them kind of come out of the ashes.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, right, or where my sentiments fall for this. I mean, I'm the same way. Um, we talked about this with the Carrera episode. I want this to be normal production. I know we'll never get the crazy colorways in normal production, but that's
Right.
fine. Just give us a silver, give us a black, give us a blue, and just make them normal and make them in the classic heritage size. That's all we want. That's all we're asking for. It's not a big one. And I guarantee you will increase your sales because more collectors will want to get turned onto the brand outside of your other fringe stuff that you make.
Yeah, I think most people are at least Tag Heuer curious. Like
Yeah.
I know they get enough flack about different things, but I think enough people are curious about the brand that if there was a home run model a la Black Bay for Tudor, that they would draw enough people over there.
Yeah, for sure. Did you know one of the highest selling watches for all of Tag what it is?
Lay it on me.
It's the connected.
Really?
I found this out recently. The connected watch is actually constantly in their top five of all bestsellers across the lineup.
Especially the Super Mario.
I'm just I was kind of like shocked. I was like, really? You guys sell that many of them? Like there's that many connected tags out there?
That is a surprise.
Apparently there is.
Wow. All right. Well, to our next one. Obviously, I talk plenty about Seiko on here, but a brand very close, but not quite. Citizen dropped a little heat. I know you covered a similar version of this watch in a previous episode when we were talking about affordable divers. This is
Yep.
the titanium version of this mechanical diver. And it goes with that whole story. They found an old watch. It washed up on the beach, and they're like, "We're going to recreate this. It's titanium. It's got a Miyota variant, but it's their own caliber. 41 mils, 12.3 thick, a little under 1,000 on a bracelet, 795 on a strap. Kind of high for a Citizen, but this thing looks pretty fire.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, again, we talked about the less expensive version. It has kind of the two-tone colorway and steel and a plated gold.
Yeah.
Um, but it's hard not to like that, especially because it's titanium. I mean, it is technically an in-house movement. It's a great diver. It's a heritage model. Um, I think it looks pretty sick. You got a bracelet option, and then if I'm not mistaken, you got kind of like a tropicy or
Yes.
waffle rubber strap version. So there's a couple flavors there, but I think it's cool. I said it was cool last time. I still stick by that. So very cool watch to finally see start hitting the stores.
Yeah. And they've been dropping some fire recently too. That night diver sort of release, that
Yeah,
thing. I'm
yeah, the
still looking at it.
fugu,
I'm
the
still
fugu,
looking at
man.
it. Probably the coolest drop I've seen recently, and this one looks so good. Baltic dropped a very limited
Yes,
edition chronograph, 300 pieces.
so good.
Yes, yes, and it's in part with a racing company or something along those lines. I didn't look at it too much, but I looked at
Yeah,
the
it's
watch
a
plenty.
yeah, it's a company called Peter
Peter
Auto.
Auto, yes.
I didn't really research exactly too much about what they do, but all you need to know is it's a three watch collaboration with this brand. So it's a very expensive Baltic. Typically, Baltic has been known for making very inexpensive watches, but in this packaging, you are getting actually three timepieces. Um, you have here the Heritage kind of chrono. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's a manual wind as well, which is fantastic. It is very of the 70s, but
Yes.
in my opinion, it to me does not really feel derivative. Like I like a lot of the design cues. I think that they're riffing on a lot of on a lot of chronograph drivers watches from
Yes.
that era, but there's nothing to me that I'm like, oh, this looks like a Daytona or this looks like a Zenith. I really truly believe this is kind of its own design language, and I like that a lot.
And a
So
colorway.
yeah,
Two straps. You get sort of a flat link bracelet, polished outside, brushed inside. Very, very interesting subdials. You get some orange, some yellow. orange second hand, which I love, the big Chrono
Yes.
Seconds hand, because I
Yes.
love the Ultraman and I love that this has it also. I like that the only index that's a numeral is 12, and the only thing on the
Yep.
dial is Baltic.
That's it. No
So
chronograph, no automatic, no manual, just
yeah,
Baltic.
this thing is just a racing inspired chronograph through and through, and it looks like it wears beautifully. 39.5 millimeters, 13.5 tall, not horrible for a chronograph. It's got a Sellita SW510 manual one, 63-hour reserve, so plenty to like here. And another company that's been dropping a lot of really nice hits lately. Even going back to their first releases, the Bathyscaphe, I like those a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But just they went on to a bicompax. They've been putting out they put out that dual crown recently, and then
Yeah,
this
and there
this
was a
thing is
micro rotor that they did a few months ago
yeah
or a year ago or so.
yeah, and then this is just a home run. I mean, I hope they make sort of a non-limited release of this. Maybe just again plain old black, blue, white, whatever.
And again, the other thing too that we
Maybe
didn't talk
600
about,
bucks.
the other thing that we didn't talk about too is like it comes with two pocket watches. Like that is
Yeah.
cool. Yes, this is not an inexpensive Baltic. I think if it was just the watch itself, then it would certainly be a lot more affordable, as is the case normally with Baltic. But the fact that you get two pocket watches that are very like rally inspired, they're basically the type of watches that you would have mounted onto cars during track times, like when you're racing, which is very cool. And it comes in a nice, unique collector's box and everything. It's a very cool package. I think this is really a job well done, certainly by Baltic. I'm really curious and I'm really excited now to see what they're going to keep coming up with, because I will be honest and say this: there has not been a single Baltic that I would not own.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
There's not. I mean, I own a Bathyscaphe. I've had basically the first ever run when they did their first kind of Kickstarter campaign
Yeah.
or whatever crowdfunding application they used back then. But I had the first production, though, like some of the first deliveries to come to the U.S.
Was that the
The
blue or the
pre-production
black?
models. I have the blue,
Okay.
one of the pre-production models, and really, really great timepiece. Honestly, I mean the size is great. A little bit smaller for me for a diver, but I really do like it. The bezel action is insanely good. Watch accuracy is, nothing to write home about, but I've never had an issue with accuracy. It always performs really, really well. But it's not regulated or chronometer spec or anything
Yeah,
like
of
that.
course.
But everything that they have ever produced is really their own language and design, which I appreciate. And to me, the price points have always been extremely competitive and extremely affordable. So you guys are on the fence about getting a Baltic, just go get one. These guys know what the hell they're doing.
Very good. Next item of business here. Quick thanks to everybody. Smash through that 30K follow mark. So big thank you to all of you for your support in that. As
Yeah,
my
man.
usual way of giving back, I am going to do a giveaway. What I was thinking was, since it's been sort of plastered all over the place recently, I like to give away things, and I'm the same way with gifts in my personal life, because once you become an adult, you can pretty much buy most things you want. So when I ask for a gift, I usually ask for something I don't want to spend my own money on.
Okay.
So
Smart move.
I try to do the same when I'm thinking of gifts for people, whether it be like my brother or my friends. I'm like, well, they could buy whatever the hell they want, but let me think of something that they would want, but they're like, do I really want to part with my own money for this? So in that vein, I'm gonna give away one of those Arabic dial Seiko fives that you've been seeing all over
Ah,
the place that my
yes.
homie Watches of Espionage sort of
Yeah,
popularized.
yeah.
Right? That to me is a watch. Yeah, do I want one? Yes. Do I want to spend my own 130 whatever dollars on it? Not really. Perfect. So I'm gonna give away one of those. I'll
Solid.
have drum up
Solid.
the post soon. It's the 42 millimeter version. I personally kind of like the 34 millimeter version, but it limits you on, because it has the integrated bracelet, it limits you on strap choices. It
Sure.
also um I'm not gonna lie to you. Probably 90 something percent of my followers are men, so 34 is not good for all of them, even though it's better for the smaller wristed people. I don't know, but I'm gonna go with the 42. It's a little more of a all around good size, better for straps, etc., etc. So Arabic dial Seiko SNK P21 coming at you soon. In other news, last item of business here with Real Men. First of all, I'm blown away by the amount of straps that have moved. I really
I
like.
think Strap Habit is too, for
He
sure.
is, because he even posted the other day. He's like, I can't believe I'm about to write this, but 20 millimeters are out again. So if you're hoping for a 20 millimeter strap, you are going to wait one more time. He is going to restock. I talked to him.
No way.
He's going to restock one more
What a
time.
legend. What a
20s and
legend.
22s. He still has 18, 19, 21.
Yeah.
I think he still has the 22, but they're running low.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's going over kind of better than we could have imagined. I think both of us were kind of touch and go on it. We were just going to say, hey, well, you know what? We're going to put them out there, see what happens. And if they tank, so be it. You know, we'll get stuck with a bunch of pink straps. But yeah, it's gone over great. You know, my initial goal was to just beat last year's 6,100. And I was nervous because I didn't have a donation watch lined up yet. Last year I got that Oris, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's hard to follow up a good first act, right? There usually are not many good sequels. We're definitely not better than the original. Empire Strikes Back, notwithstanding. But, you know, usually it's hard to follow up a good first act. It's your second year doing it. It's kind of like, oh, this again. But yeah, right now we're crushing it. And, you know, at first, like I said, I was just trying to be 61, and then I was like, you know, I think 10 might be in range. I'm not gonna lie to you, I might be in range for 15 plus at this point, which is absolutely insane, and I'm extremely proud
That
of
is amazing.
everyone,
That is amazing.
not just patting myself on the back here, but everybody for helping out.
Well, no, I mean,
Big boss.
I will say this, you and Strap Habit came up with this collaboration to do this, but it's our listeners, it's your followers, it's the people that have been out there sharing the message, sending them to their friends, pushing this forward, that has got guys to go out and say, you know what, $25, I'm willing to part for that for a good cause. Not to mention, I get something cool out of it, like an awesome strap. So many times people ask for donations, they ask for monetary things, and you're happy to do it, but you never see the end of like where your money goes.
Yes.
Right. In this way, it's, hey, I can buy something, benefit a great organization, benefit a great cause, do something great, but I get to actually have something that I can wear at home with pride. When people ask me about it, it's, hey, it's a story that I can also share. And I think that's the unspoken thing that we haven't talked about. I wear my pink strap all the time. Everyone always asks me what it's for and why I'm wearing a pink strap. And every single time we get to bring up the fact that we have this conversation and what we do with this stuff and the thing, what you're spearheading. That's more awareness. That's just a byproduct, which I think is fantastic. So, good job to all you guys that are out there doing this. Again, $25 is not a small amount of money. It's not a big amount of money, but Bro and I certainly do appreciate it. This is always Bro's project. I'm kind of helping out, share the message when I can, but this is his baby, and I know he's extremely humbled by this. So this is awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited.
And it's crazy. Even people, there are sales being made that are sort of like ancillary. Like, for example, my buddy Luke, who was on the week you weren't here with my other buddy Brian, he wore his to work. He works at a pretty big corporation in Manhattan. His senior vice president stops him and says, where did you get that strap? And obviously he got to do the whole song and dance for him and everything. He's like, where do I get one? So now he actually has the Shun button like I do. He's got one on his now. So like it's just a crazy kind of like
funny
spider web of all these people who've gotten involved. So it's really pretty cool.
That's amazing. Good for you, man. That's amazing, honestly.
And little surprise, it appears, I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch, but it appears that the good folks over at Nomos might be coming around on a deep pink 38. Might. I'm not gonna slam dunk that one yet, but that would be tremendous.
That would be huge. That would be
Right.
clutch.
I think that's the pick watch of the year. I think I would go with that.
Yeah, I think that would be sick.
Although someone put one of these on the mission to Venus and it looked
Oh
sick.
yeah, 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 for sure.
It's
That's for
kind of like
sure.
pink on pink on pink, but let me tell you, it was good.
Hey, when you have something pink, hey, you got to go for it.
Okay, a little news before we head into topic. I think it's sort of been on everybody's tongue, and we'll just touch on it for the sake of touching on it. Big surprise, Jack Forrester, and now we learn John Buse are both leaving Hodinkee.
Yeah,
Kind of nuts. I mean, it's more so. I'm not surprised in the concept of people moving around business to business. I mean, it is what it is. But just this is sort of like the old guard at Hodinkee, and it
yeah.
reminds me of when I got into the hobby. Is more what it is. It's very nostalgic for me. I used to watch a lot of Jack Forrester videos. He was like the super interesting, kind of all-encompassing know-it-all. You know what I mean? He was like the dude who taught me
He
what the
reminded me.
complications were.
He was kind of like the dad of
Yes, that's
Houdinki,
exactly
right?
what
Like
I'm
he was
getting at.
like the professor or the dad of Houdinki, and I remember when he started, he came in as senior editor in chief. I'm like, who is this guy? Where is he coming from? What is he going to do to Houdinki? And he brought this extremely refreshing perspective, albeit a very technical
Yes.
perspective, right? Very thorough and very, as I said, uh, um, professorial that way, but an amazing person. Had such an incredible contribution to Houdinki over the years. So I personally, just like you, am saddened to see him go. I know John Buse the same type of thing. He was very passionate about Seiko, Grand Seiko. He did a lot of great articles as well. He did. I remember back in the day, the what was it, the 3 for 3,
Yes.
when he was part of that group as well. So a lot of great projects. So um, all I can say is we wish you guys the best. I mean,
It looks like you landed on your feet. I think
yeah,
Jack's gonna be great at Watchbox. I can't imagine what the first Jack and Tim video is gonna be like because technical knowledge like off the charts,
and
like head,
and
head
such
exploding.
different like styles
Yes.
of presentation, and Jack's very methodical. Tim is kind of just like doesn't take a breath, and he's got his Oakley's on his head, and Jack's wearing his sweater vests and bow ties. So
Yep. Bow tie.
it'll be an interesting mix for sure. But let me ask you, since you always kind of bring up the stuff, what do you think that this means for the future of Houdinki?
I was thinking about this, and I think they still have some thoroughbreds in the stable, but I think a lot of people are wondering, are there more dominoes to fall? Perhaps.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
that's what I'm thinking
But
of
then
myself.
who do you replace these people with? I mean, a lot of them are icons, a lot of them are staples, specifically at Hodinkee. Man, I know I go to Hodinkee for certain people only, right? Like certain people's work, I go specifically
Well,
for.
you've associated the brand that is Houdinki with these respective editors.
Yes,
You know,
and some of them, I've had the privilege of getting to know personally, obviously via DM because we were under a pandemic for 2 years. But I feel almost a connection with these people, so I go to specifically look at their work. If they are no longer there, I don't know what's going on. I mean, I guess they're gonna have to either introduce some new faces or push some of the sort of fringe people up and make them the new feature. I don't know. I mean, I guess we're gonna see.
yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. I like I said, I wish everybody the best, and I know people have to make career decisions and look out for their best livelihoods and things like that. But I just feel like within the last, let's say, 2 years, we've had a lot of people systematically leave Houdinki. And I will go out there and take this one on the chin. I don't think it's good. I think something's going on that is causing people to leave, and I don't know what that is. I'm not going to even pretend to know what that is. But this many people don't start leaving over time unless there is a fundamental issue.
I mean, there was a big change in ownership. No,
certainly with that, and then of course, you had Ben step away,
Right.
and then he kind of recycled back. That to me was the first real red flag. And then all of a sudden, I start going through the editor page at Houdinki about the staff, and I don't recognize any names on there.
Yeah.
And the few guys that I did see still there, the Jacks, the Coles. I mean, you started to see less and less features, less and less articles, less and less content. So I don't know exactly what that means, but for me, and kind of the writing on the wall, I think some things are going down at Houdinki, and it'll be very interesting to see what the future of that will mean for that respective editorial, because they've lost a lot of good people in a very short time.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if we're about to meet the next wave of great, horological editorial staff or what, but I think we're all kind of on edge waiting to find out.
Yeah, yeah, and and a lot of these guys are moving on to brands. They're moving on to other things. So, as far as I've seen, but I think there's more dominoes to fall.
Well, we'll certainly
I'm,
see.
I'm gonna I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it. There's some interesting stuff that's happening in the industry right now. So I'm curious to see what big changes will come next, because I don't think we're done.
All right, right here, August 20th, because we're after midnight. August 20th, Schmidt says, Dominoes a fallen. We'll mark that one down on the calendar. To main topic. Today, we're talking a little economics here on the show. This is a topic I think it's been sort of in everybody's mind since, I guess, the recent months where we've been getting a lot of talk about recessions and inflation and things like that. And obviously, the first things to get cut are often luxury goods,
Yep.
right? Luxury goods and kind of speculative investments,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So that's why we got a lot of those stories about crypto bros liquidating their Rolexes and things like that. So we're kind of getting a lot of that jargon around economic downturn, recession, economic uncertainty, and sort of in that face, I think if you've been paying attention, we've seen some of these secondary prices falling.
Yeah.
Now, I know you and I before the show we did a little research because we wanted to validate that. We don't want to just go shooting off into the abyss here without a proof. But a lot of these household names as far as secondary market darlings, because you're certainly not getting them retail. A lot of these household names have started to come down, some of which in a big way. And I think we looked at those specifically, not that those are watches that you or I lust after necessarily, or that we could afford even, but if those are coming down, those are like the blue chip stocks, right? If those are coming down, everything else is either due to tumble or is already going to take a tumble, and it'll probably tumble at a worse percentage than they will.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these are some extremely desirable models. Probably many of you who are listening to this right now will probably have an idea of what we might be covering here. But just like Bro said, if this is an indication of what's to come, and these are already seeing significant market changes, hold on to your butts.
Yeah, we might see some really dramatic price action in the next few months, because this only started happening a few months ago. I mean, earlier around the change of the year, we were seeing probably the peak price of secondary market pieces.
100%. 100%.
But now,
certainly the end of Q1 going into Q2, right? You had February, you had March, April time. We saw extremely high prices for watches.
Right. And just to sort of reinforce that, we'll give you what we considered some of the pantheon of secondary market watches here, right? So we looked up the new Submariner, and it's down. And keep in mind, these are average price Chrono 24. So that means these are selling higher and lower than the price listed, but this is where the average price falls. Was going around 18 down to 16. Panda Daytona right? The darling of the Rolex collection was up around 50, now down around 39,000.
39,000.
The next three, keep in mind, are all steel, all in blue because that's the most popular combination. Royal Oak down from around 110 to 83 thou.
Jesus.
Patek 5711 182 down to 143.
Wow.
Vacheron Overseas 71 down to 44. Okay, so that those to me are like your market indicators, right? Your Amazon, your
Yeah.
Tesla,
Yeah. I mean,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely. Especially because these are the highest, these are the most inflated these prices have ever been. I mean,
Yikes.
$182,000 for a 5711. Now, I get it. It's discontinued. It was already hard to get. It was one of the upper echelons of Patek collectability. I get that. But almost $200,000 for a watch that didn't even hack the movement.
No quick set date.
I mean, crazy stuff like that. Like, I mean, come on. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Man. And then what's the new price now? What's the average new price?
143.
So let's say $40,000 in loss,
Yeah.
give or take. Right?
If people at the top.
If you bought the top $40,000 wash, man,
But
that's
that's sort of the game you knew you were getting into though when you go play in the secondary market. No?
yeah. I mean, but again, this is the I feel bad that this is
Yeah, of
happening,
course.
but I also don't, because for me, part of the problem was all of these guys who invested in crypto who didn't really know much about watches, but were going to start investing their money into watches. They're the ones that created these prices. They're the ones that constantly kept flipping and pushing retailers to sell these watches at exorbitant amounts, exorbitant prices, and they drove them. They powered the machine.
The investment buyer, the speculative buyer.
Yes, yes, not really the watch bro, like not
No, no,
really
no, no.
the WIS or anybody that is truly passionate about collecting watches. Somebody who saw this as a way to diversify their portfolio. That's who is taking a loss on this. And you know what? It sucks that it's going to affect the rest of us, but it needs to happen. This
Yeah.
hot take, it has to happen.
We were due for a correction, certainly.
I mean, my God, these watches are just astronomically expensive. They're too high. They're too high.
I mean, hey, a pastel blue Oyster Perpetual was going for God
Don't
knows
even
what, right?
don't even get me
I
started
didn't
on
look
that
that one up,
on
and
that
I don't
watch.
want to look it up, but that just popped in my head.
Yeah, it's my gosh. Doesn't even have a date.
But that's not necessarily what the core of this episode is about. That's sort of just the foundation for this episode. What I was thinking more was in light of all of that, if you had to pick, what are maybe some sexy value buys you might see on the horizon, right? If we're going to have a market free fall overall. So I know I have a few. Some of them are a little more generic. Some of them are specific. I know you probably have a few, but what do you think? What would you be maybe rubbing a couple of nickels together for?
I think if these are kind of the indications that the market's going to take a massive swing, I think where you're going to start to see a lot of the prices come down, specifically on the secondary market, which is where they need to come down anyway. I would really like to pick up a Panerai. I
Ooh,
think a Panerai, and I've talked about this before
yeah,
on the episode several times. I love the design.
it's a
I
great.
love
It's a
the aesthetic.
submersible, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah.
submersible. It's just one of those watches that it's not like anything else.
Nope.
I'm a big proponent of design language. I want original design, and for me, if I'm gonna go out there and get a Panerai, I really don't want to buy one for 10,000 US. It's a dive watch. It's like really, to me, it's not worth it. because at $10,000, I'd be buying another Omega. That's just me. And if I could get a nice little panty, I think that that would be pretty cool.
That would be a pretty pimp watch to actually dive in.
Yeah, I mean, the thing's awesome. You know,
Which rendition?
I'm looking up the exact reference, but the one that I really have liked, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, so I'm gonna look it up real quick. But it's the Panerai submersible. It's the 42.
No,
That's
cool.
the
All right.
size that I also like because I've tried it on. I tried it on in the I was visiting Canada in 2019. I tried it on the boutique in Toronto, and I was like, this is it. Um, but it's a 42 millimeter Panerai submersible, and it has the light gray dial with the dark blue bezel,
Okay.
and it comes on a rubber strap. Trying to find out which model it might be. Who knows if it's even still available? But something along those lines would be what I want. But don't know if they still make that particular configuration. Looks like on the website, but their website's kind of confusing. So to give you kind of an idea here, um, this collection ranges anywhere from about 8,900 if it's a non-ceramic bezel to about 98 if it is ceramic. But there's even some that kind of hit the top end at 10 for different versions. But one of the ones that I kind of see here that I would actually wear as well, it's a black dial with a blue bezel. It's the submersible Azuro. It's a 42 millimeter. It's the PAM 01209. It's 9,800 US.
Yeah, and
It's a
obviously
lot.
we're talking used or secondary market prices because the retail prices are not going to come down. They're actually probably going to go up thanks to inflation.
Yep,
But what you can actually
absolutely.
buy them for, whether it be secondary, used, whatever, or maybe we even see possibly maybe the return of the discount in tough times. I don't know.
I really don't think that'll ever happen, to be honest with you. Just
It's
because
just crazy
so
to
many,
think three years ago you could
yeah,
you could easily grab 10%.
yeah, those days are very, very, very long gone. Now, will there be retailers and brands out there that still do it? Sure. But I think on a lot of watches, specifically, all day long, 5 years ago, you can get 15%,
Yep.
10% off an Omega all day long. Those days are gone. Now, unless you know a friend of a friend that is personal friends with the owner of a store, then maybe you can squeeze out something like that as a personal favor. Okay, that is not impossible that that still happens. But for the average client, one, I've heard from all my friends in the industry that people just don't even ask anymore.
Wow.
They just know the price is gonna be what it is, and they just buy it. I mean, and that's in part to kind of what we're talking about with the inflated prices. For a 5711, like the asking price is now 182.
Yeah.
That's just it. You're not gonna get it for 140, right? Like, if you're selling this watch, that is what it is. And you either have the money to get it or you don't. So most people don't even haggle, they don't even negotiate, they don't do anything because the price is just what it's gonna be. It's it's everything. But even look at the car industry.
Yep.
You can't do it there either. And for so many years, that was where you really cut your teeth in trying to beat the dealership, and trying to beat the point of sale.
Yeah, it's
We're
funny.
just gonna sit out there and negotiate and fight and all that stuff. And that doesn't even happen anymore. You're lucky enough if they can even get you a car.
Yeah, I got my lease probably peak pandemic, and they are knocking down my door, calling me every day, trying to
Every
get
day.
me out of this lease because I got obviously a great deal on it because nobody was buying anything. And then right
Mm-hmm.
after that, there was a shortage on cars and chips and things. So now they're
Yep.
like, "Oh my God, we're just trying to get used model." They're just trying to get people out of the good
Yeah. So
leases and into new
they
ones and
have an
extend them. Yeah.
inventory to sell again, you know?
Yeah. So it's definitely crazy. And kind of along the same vein, probably one of the wildest stories I heard as far as watches go. And I think this was kind of a top signal, if you will, for me was somebody I was talking to in my DMs told me that a very popular reseller would not take their Rolex Explorer because they had too many in their inventory.
I have heard the same rumblings.
To me,
Um,
that's like red flag top because like the Explorer or Explorer One for a lot of people what they call it, but the Explorer is that entry Rolex, right? That sort
yep,
of base tool model. If you got too many of those, like those are usually the highest demand because they're among, and I use air quotes, among the cheapest of the Rolex family. You got too
yep,
many of those, that's a bad sign to
yep.
me.
Yeah, you're sitting on inventory, which means the desirability is dropping out, which means the inflated prices are dropping out, which means everything's starting to come down. And you are the second person that's told me that because I've reached out a lot to my contacts that are still in the industry, and they have told me that in their respective stores, their buyers, because a lot of these places today to make money have pre-owned sections.
Yeah,
They can't carry Rolex, but they'll carry Rolex pre-owned, right? That's a great way to make a lot of money,
makes sense.
especially because the business has been booming. You can't get the stuff at retail. Why not sell it at a higher price when anyway? They're telling me that their buyers are offering less and less and less money for these watches. They are taking in less and less watches on trade.
Yeah,
And unless it's a very specific version of a watch that's a little bit more desirable, they don't want nothing to do with it. And the reason for that, like you said, anything that's ubiquitous, like an Explorer, like a Datejust, like these watches that are normal and easy to get, they don't want to take them anymore. They don't want to have them. They don't want to stock them because they're not going to move them as quickly. And typically, if you're going to see anything move or that's going to get taken in on trade or whatever it might be, it's going to be something that's going to be a little bit more unique or special. Maybe have some factory work done, some gem sets, some things that are unusual
yeah,
that will give that piece some more desirability. But here's the caveat. A lot of these normal gold pieces that you've seen, a gold GMT Master, a gold sub, these watches, a lot more retailers are not taking those watches in anymore because if the market does fall out, those watches have a very specific consumer base.
yeah,
Okay. If the market falls out, recession hits us, all these things happen. People that could have that discretionary income, that could afford something like that, are going to start saving it the same way that you and I would start saving it. And those types of high dollar watches are going to lose out because those retailers will buy them in on inventory and then they can't move them. So as a preemptive measure, I've heard from a lot of people in the industry right now that they are not taking those types of watches in on trade. They're not taking those watches in on consignment. They're not taking those watches in to resell because they don't know when the bottom could fall out on this thing, if it does.
I guess it makes perfect sense. I mean, I know I've heard people say that they've only been now offered trade-in value. They're not even getting offered cash for their watch
Yeah,
online.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because everyone's starting to see the writings on the wall. It's the same thing happened in 2008. All of a sudden, you could start picking up watches for next to nothing. And I have a collector friend who's been saying it for the last 2 years. For the last 2 years now, he's said, and he's told me many times, he's like, be patient, stock some cash. And he said, if something happens, there's going to be a course correction, and everyone's going to be offloading their watches like crazy. And because they're all going to hit the market at the same time, the competition is going to be there across the board. So everyone's going to have to start lowering their prices here and there to be competitive
Yeah.
to move these products out. And he said, just be patient. And if you have the cash and you can do it, you can afford it, then you could pick up some probably pretty insane stuff for really next to nothing at all.
Yeah, and for me, I know I've spoken before about this, and I've described it as almost like the Hodinkee special. For me, I think I would first start looking at ubiquitous because I feel like those are the ones, as we just talked about, that are going to be in great supply. You're gonna have the pick of the litter, plenty of conditions to choose from, plenty of different aging on the watch, dial variants, things like that. So I previously have mentioned the 36 millimeter Datejust or the Constellations from those same eras. I love both of them, and I
Yeah.
think those are two watches I would go right after. I mean, even I've got that Great Isle 1603. I know I think I said four in the other episode, but it's a 1603 Great Isle, and I got it up right now, and there's one on here for 3650. Now I haven't seen them that low in a long time, but if they hop
Yeah,
down into
that's
that
low.
range, what I was talking about them last time, where they go under threes, I'm gonna be
Because
pretty
I mean,
tempted to hop
before,
on it.
because I'm pretty sure when if I remember correctly, when we recorded that episode, they were close to 6,000, if I'm not mistaken.
I think for a really nice example, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what I remember. You know, that upper fives, almost $6,000. You know, 5,800, 5,500, something like that. You know, that's the price point for a modern watch, like a modern luxury brand watch,
Right, brand new.
right? Brand new, exactly. You get an
doesn't
Omega
doesn't need a
Aquaterra for
service.
5,700 US. I mean, that's a brand new watch.
Yeah.
Um, that would be a steal. That would be an amazing get at right around the $3,000 price point.
So I'm definitely looking at both of those, and I especially the Constellation because I love the sort of pink gold tone they used to come in. I've got
Yeah,
such a soft spot for those things, and I will be looking for those very hard if the bottom falls out of this market.
I mean, I can't disagree with you there. There's a lot of vintage Omega I would want to add to my collection. I'm not going to go through all of them because this list would be forever long. But you know, hell, I'd love to own a Ploprof,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you talk about we. I talked about one diver. I mean, I'd take the second one too.
and you have
I,
to imagine that in a market where there are not too many buyers, somebody trying to offload that would have to take a significant haircut on that.
yeah, I mean, I remember 3 years ago, I could buy a Ploprof, the titanium version for $3,800,
Sheesh.
full box and papers, because nobody wanted to buy that watch. It was a commercial failure. That watch has been a commercial failure for Omega since the 1970s, but it has such an iconic design. I don't think they can let themselves let it go.
Well, that's the problem. Commercial failure, technical marvel, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now, I mean, when you think about it, it's technically irrelevant because that was Omega's, you know, kind of flagship diver. But now the ultra deeps, which are now just starting to hit the US, there's three times as capable.
Yeah, and
It's 6,000 meters.
on the other end, the 300-meter is like the second hottest diver to the Submariner.
Absolutely. Absolutely 100%.
So it's kind of in a weird spot.
And I think that, yeah, I mean, and you know, the kudos to the 300 meter because at least that watch you can get in different colors.
Plenty of them.
That's the other thing that still blows my mind. With as many subs as people try to sell and people try to buy, you can only get two of them in steel. You get the Starbucks or whatever the hell they're calling it now, and you get the black dial, you know, date, which is really the only way to do it, unless you're gonna, you know, try to get a no date. But I feel like these, like, you don't really have an option anymore. It's kind of the way it goes. Like, hey, your sub came in. Oh, cool. Is it a no date? No, it's a date. Ah, well, I guess I'm gonna get that one. You know, like I don't really feel like people have the option anymore.
And if you're going to do the pinky out thing, it's the
Yeah.
sub and the sub date.
Oh, sub dates. Oh, okay. But you know, for me, if I was gonna get something like that, hell, I can get a white dial, which looks amazing. I can get a gray blue dial, I can get a green dial, get a black dial, blue dial, which is the OG Bond version.
They're
Like
all pretty good.
they're all awesome. I mean, I flounder. You know, I've been telling myself I was gonna buy a 300 meter for so many years, and I like you. I mean, I grew up in the Brosnan Bond era. Like that
Yeah.
was my Bond. Like, you
That
know,
would be a fun watch to go after.
absolutely. Even like the original,
Yeah.
you know, to get like a 90s era, you know, we'd have to get our boy Lorenzo on and help us have him help us source some of the original ones because that guy can find anything.
Well, we'd be getting
Um,
quartz models then, but even then, I feel like those would be like bargain basement, like flea market prices.
well, I mean, you know, even still, I mean, he did transition to in the second film. He did transition to an automatic.
Did
It's
he?
an
Oh,
11.
wow.
Yeah, it's an 1120 caliber, which would have been, I think, Tomorrow Never Dies, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. So it was Goldeneye, which was quartz. Then I think they went to the 1120 and Tomorrow Never Dies,
And then
and
Die
that's an
Another Day.
automatic. It's just not coaxial or anything else. That
Yeah,
stuff came all later when Daniel Craig took over. But he did wear a mechanical version the rest of his tenure as Bond.
that's very interesting.
Um, but yeah, Lorenzo has told me all the skinny about this on his podcast. And if you guys haven't listened to our stuff cover Lorenzo before, go give him a listen. He and a buddy of ours, um, Luke Taggart, run a James Bond themed podcast called Blunt Instruments. It's a fantastic resource for all things Bond, and Lorenzo is a whiz when it comes to Bond watches.
And he's a
So
trip.
go
He's a
give him
funny
follow.
dude. He's entertaining. So
He knows everything. I'd like to consider myself a pretty good, watch expert. Like Lorenzo knows the minutia of different fonts, and like it's crazy. He knows a lot,
yeah, he was
and
great.
he's
If you might have caught him in our Connery sub conundrum episode. So if you haven't,
yeah,
go back and
our
listen to that
Connery
one.
Sub Conundrum episode, absolutely. And I know that Lorenzo has also taken a lot of DMs and helped people find specific James Bond Omegas and other watches and things like that. So to shout out to him, Lorenzo's a good dude.
Even though he's a Braves fan. Just kidding. Um, so aside from that, I think everybody knows I would be hard in the hunt for Seikos. Vintage,
Oh
obviously,
yeah, oh
but
yeah,
I mean, there are so many models that I think have come to light over the past couple years from people like our buddy Nick at DC Vintage and people like
yeah,
all these different your Cole Penningtons and everybody, right? Your Willards, your slim case Willards, your chronographs. There's so many vintage Seikos out there that are now like lust worthy. It's
yeah,
almost
yeah, yeah.
annoying because now they're hard to get. Like the Pogue is insanely expensive, but I think everybody would welcome price drops on that stuff. Like especially the Pogue. I know so many people were like, "Damn, I really should have got a Pogue when they were cheap." Like everybody,
Yep.
even
Yep.
though like we've
When they
talked
were
about,
like several $100s and not like, a couple $1,000.
like you talked about, it's kind of like this hideous kind of gold yellow dial, Pepsi bezel. You're like, what is this thing? And then you're like, I want one.
Yep.
So it's so hard like that. But I think if those or any of those 6139, 6138 chronographs, any of those vintage chronos, the divers, even hey, some of those dress watches, the old King Seikos, the old Grand Seikos that are still pretty reasonably priced. Any of those nosedive, I'm all over that.
Yeah. Well, the other added benefit of this, if it does happen, like I'll be able to finally buy some Seiko Pro specs for like the original, like the actual price point I want to pay for them. So something that's like $450, like give it to me for 200.
Yeah,
like that's what I want. Like that's when all of us got into this. You could pick up a tuna, or you could pick up a monster or an SKX for just basically nothing,
yeah.
and it had a lot to do with that. And you'd always see, retail price 500, sale
Always.
price 180. Like it was like watching the was it the Home Shopping Network when they
Yeah,
sell an Invicta.
QVC.
Yeah, QVC when they sell an Invicta. This watch retails for $1,500, but we're going to sell it to you for the low price of $64.95. And you're like, wait, what? Is that
And it's
even
buy one, get
real?
one free.
It's buy one get one free, and you get a cool watch box that's yellow.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. And I even had that written down was that all of the range right now that retails around 900,000 are all
Yeah,
awesome, but like I also don't want to pay 900 1,000 for all of them.
exactly,
So if
exactly.
those took a huge hit, like those SPBs, like the 62 Moss reedition type
Yeah,
watches,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
newer Willards, things like that, I'm in.
I mean, again, that's one of the things that I've kind of stayed away from collecting Seiko. I got some of the newer reeditions, like when they came out with the new Turtle, right? The
Yeah.
first couple generation of Turtle, they had the new Samurai that came out. I got one of those. But then things started to start really coming out with newer movements and everything, which is fine. It's necessary, but the prices started getting a little bit
Yep.
inflated for what I feel comfortable with spending for a Seiko that I know I'm not going to wear often enough.
Right.
So for me, like you, I just want to return back to getting really quality pieces for a pretty decent amount of money and not feeling like you're going to spend or overextend yourself on something that's, it's just a normal watch. There's nothing to write home about.
Yeah. Anything else you'd be looking at there?
I'd really like to help my brother get a birth year Speedy.
Ooh, that's nice.
Which it's not a watch for me per se, but he's been wanting a Speedmaster for a very long time, and he's been looking for a birth year. So the issue is right now he's just he's got a lot of kids, and he doesn't really have the resources to do something like that for himself. But if it was for me, I would see about helping him get something like that.
That would be very cool.
Yeah.
I know I personally, I think that would be a great time to maybe get into some either Breitling or Doxa that I've really been wanting to get into.
Yeah.
Either one would do the trick. Even if I went back a little and I maybe even went with something like Walkman, which for the people who don't know, that was like
Yeah, yeah.
it was an American company, eventually got bought out by Breitling, but they've got some cool old stuff. Like I don't know if you've ever seen like the old like Regatta. It's like got like all the different colors on it, and it's got like the
Yep.
same hand as the like the Flight Master, the little plain hand. So much cool stuff in their back catalog, and even with that, like I know I've spoken before about old Zodiacs and Ennicars and things. I would be like very hard on eBay trying to poke through,
Trolling.
yeah, trolling, but like also not trying to get robbed. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, definitely a
Eh,
Doxer Breitling. I've been meaning like brands I've been meaning to get into, and I just have not.
Yeah, and I think too, what would be so exciting about this time is it would almost be like a reset.
Yeah,
It would almost be like a reset because you would start to see the market flood. You'd start to see all these things get listed. You start to see that people start to offload these pieces. But it would also be one of those things where people had to go out and find and research and discover this stuff on their own before somebody like a Hodinky, a Cole Pennington, a Blog to Watch, or whatever, RJ from Fratello told you about them. You know, this was just a cool watch that you happen to stumble across against a drunken 3 a.m. Google search on eBay.
yeah.
That is what I miss. And there's so many watch collectors today who have not had that experience yet, and it shows. But it would be a reset. You'd start to see these watches make themselves available again. People start to lust over them and truly have people find watches in the old school puritanical way, the purest way, which is through self discovery. And I think that would be amazing. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head. I think I know back when I used to just scroll the forums looking for just exposure, just looking for different pictures of things, and then eventually you'd have to try to figure out once you got a good enough eye, you were like, wait, is that a limited edition? Is that a mod?
Yeah.
Is that is that somebody did somebody play around with this or did this come stock? Like you know, then you had to do some searching and try to see if this was a relevant model number. Like that was kind of part of the fun, like part of the chase.
Yeah.
And you sort of miss that now. I
Well, it's too
think that
easy because everyone tells you what to get.
yeah, there will be a ton of value proposition type articles coming out.
Yes. I miss that. It was when times were more pure, you know? Everyone was in it for the actual hobby, not to make money off of it. And in many ways I miss that.
Yeah, like that's like I almost remember I can almost pinpoint when the UG pole router took off.
Yeah.
I remember I had never seen it until articles popped up kind of all at the same time, and then I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is a cool watch," and oh, now it's expensive.
Yeah. Because at one point in time there was an article about how they were not expensive, and then all of
Yeah,
a sudden 20 articles come out, and then 300 people start flocking, and Google searches for pole routers are starting to trend. All of a
yep,
sudden
yep.
prices go up, right? Like it's crazy. I mean, Heck, we just saw that happen with our little with the little Seiko 5 you're about to give away. Like the
Yeah.
same thing happened. We covered it. A couple other blogs covered it. A couple other pods covered it. They reference watches of espionage, and boom, all of a sudden, prices are going up.
Yeah, people buying that thing left and right. So
Yeah,
again,
I mean, and how
hopefully,
could you not? It's a cool watch.
hopefully
It is a cool watch for sure.
I can get that in somebody's hands who didn't want to spend that money.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Shout out to our future lucky listener who will have a new timepiece this year
Yes, yes.
from Bro Dinky.
One of many.
One of many. One of many.
All right, damn, I kind of gave away a lot of watches this year.
You look,
Right.
he did, man.
Moonswatch, this,
Moonswatch.
right? This watch, hopefully a Nomos. That's kind of decent.
It's not bad.
And it's not.
And a lot of money that's going to be donated to breast cancer awareness.
Yeah. So hopefully I haven't annoyed anybody up the wall with any of it, but we're doing good.
No, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. All right then. Anything left on your laundry list?
No, man. I mean, I would just be excited for honestly overarching. I'd just be excited for the return of a lot of stuff to the market. Make them available so that we could get them. And that would be honestly what I'd be excited for. But the stuff that I covered, a new Panerai, something esoteric like a Plo Prof, Birther Speedy from my brother. I think those would be some pretty solid things I'd want to hunt for. But I'm excited to see what that future is going to be. Is this going to happen? Is it something that is going to happen for a little bit and then fall away, and the prices are going to, recorrect themselves and go back up again? Are we going to see more and more people fade away from the watch industry? I don't know. What do you think?
I really don't have an answer. I hope it doesn't fall out completely, obviously. But I think if things took just a little correction, just gave people maybe some time to maybe reset, reallocate their collection a little bit, and then even if things kind of progress back up, at least you had your shot. It's not like, oh, I missed out forever, where you get these sob stories nowadays where people are like, I really just wanted an Explorer and now I can never get one. And you're like,
Yep.
damn.
I've been saving for 10 years and I'm screwed. Yeah. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's very heartbreaking.
So I don't want anybody to lose their shirt, but I think a small adjustment period could be a little bit of fun for a hobby that's been a little bit hot and a little bit untouchable in recent 2-3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. It does need it. It does need it.
Yeah. So with that, I think we could put an end to this episode of Wrist Cheese Radio. Ladies and gents, thanks for hanging out. This was episode 44 of the Wrist Cheese Radio podcast. As always, we appreciate you tagging along with both of us, listen to our ramblings, and we'll catch you next week. Schmitty, be good, brother.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Peace.